Netflix's Gay Marines dramedy, Boots, is rooted in one man's real experiences and a tragic history of LGBTQ+ exclusion in the United States military. Based on the best-selling memoir The Pink Marine by Greg Cope White, Boots tells the story of a gay teen named Cam Cope who enlists in the Marines in 1990 not knowing what to expect. Actor Miles Heiser leads the cast of Boots, playing the fictionalized version of Cope White. His performance shows all the emotional nuances of a very complex environment which seeks to tear him down and out him. Boots takes many creative liberties with some characters to further the core messages. However, at the heart of the story is emotional truth and real-life inspiration. From the start to the end of Boots, the dramedy incorporates the real history of the Marines and the experiences of Greg Cope White. Boots is based on Greg Cope White's experience joining the Marines as a closeted gay man. Cam Cope looks straight at the camera and holds up his rifle in Netflix's Boots. Courtesy of Netflix. In 1979, Greg Cope White decided to enlist in the United States Marine Corps alongside his best friend, Dale, using the Buddy program. Dale had previously gone to the Air Force Academy. However, his eyesight wasn't good enough to be a fighter pilot, so he switched gears, completing his military contract in the Marines. In Boots, this is a lie to hide his anxiety disorder, but the TV show lie is the truth in real life. While he had zero idea what he would experience at boot camp, Cope White knew he would have to lie about his sexuality. It was a crime to be gay in the military. In an interview with the Classic Conversations podcast, he explained that he was more scared of getting beaten up than getting court-martialed. Once he arrived at Paris Island, he found himself experiencing sleep deprivation, verbal degradation, and intensive physical training. In his book, Cope White explains that by the midway point, he was more determined to finish than he was scared to get outed. Netflix's Boots is set 4 years before Don't Ask, Don't Tell went into effect. Jones walks into the fighting ring in Boots Episode 8. Patty Pay and Netflix. While Cope White's real experiences took place 15 years before Don't Ask, Don't Tell went into effect, Boots moves the date to 1990. This is a significant change that's done for narrative impact. The attitudes were changing at that point, meaning Cope and Sergeant Sullivan had people who might be on their side if they were discovered. Additionally, while it was definitely illegal for him to enlist, Cope White joined the Marines before the infamous 1981 Department of Defense Directive 1332.14, which stated in no uncertain terms that homosexuality is incompatible with military service. This ramped up the naval witch hunts for lesbian, gay, and bisexual service members. Don't Ask, Don't Tell wouldn't go into effect until 1994, but even that wasn't much of a step up for service members. Military members could no longer ask about another member's sexuality, and they couldn't discriminate on the basis of suspected sexuality. However, lesbian, gay, and bisexual people also couldn't disclose their sexuality. If their sexuality were discovered or they were determined to have engaged in sex with another person of the same sex, they would be discharged. It wasn't until 2011 that it became legal for military personnel to come out of the closet regarding their sexuality. Trans members were still banned. Ultimately, approximately 100,000 service members were discharged based on their sexuality between World War II and the end of DADT, via the Restore Honor to Service Members Act. If Cam, Jones, or Sergeant Sullivan was to be outed in Boots, they would have been part of that statistic. Sergeant Sullivan's investigation subplot speaks to the real NCIS investigation into gay service members. Sergeant Sullivan stands in a doorway in Boots Episode 2. Courtesy of Netflix. As previously mentioned, the NCIS, called NIS at the time, investigation into gay, lesbian, and bisexual service members was very real. According to the 1992 Defense Force Management Report to Congress, between 1980 and 1990, approximately 1,500 service members were discharged each year on the basis of sexuality. This disqualified them from getting any veterans' benefits. It also meant shame and stigma from fellow veterans. On top of that, the discharge isn't processed immediately, so the service member would have to handle the increased scrutiny while waiting. Taking the increased watchfulness into consideration, Sergeant Sullivan's fear of getting discovered would make perfect sense. What's more, because he lied about it, he could have been court-martialed rather than just dishonorably discharged or an other than honorable discharge. The physical drills in Boots are based on real-life Marine boot camp. Sergeant Sullivan watches as Cody and Slovacek crawl across a rope in the Confidence obstacle course in Boots. Courtesy of Netflix. When it came to representing the drills and training that Marines go through, Boots is an excellent depiction of the real experience, thanks to the multiple veterans in the writing room. They removed some of the less interesting, repetitive drills, like standing at attention repeatedly until everyone has it perfect, and getting dressed quickly ad nauseam until everyone gets it perfect. However, the obstacle courses and exercises match up pretty well. As Greg Cope White describes in his book, Paris Island is essentially just one big obstacle course that the recruits must complete. The dead man's float is also real, as is the challenge where they have to experience tear gas. Like in Boots, the recruits also go through rifle training, though only after learning all the parts, how to clean them, and how to clean the gun. Ultimately, the attention to detail will allow audiences to empathize with the experiences of Marine recruits and connect with the characters, if they've been through boot camp themselves. Greg Cope White graduated boot camp and stayed in the Marines for 6 years. Cam stands at attention with his fellow recruits in Boots Episode 1. Alfonso, Pompo, Bresciani in Netflix. Throughout Boots, Cam Cope nearly washes out of boot camp multiple times. However, a turning point for him is when Sergeant Sullivan tells Cam to stop thinking he's lesser or that he doesn't belong. With this newfound confidence, Cam graduates boot camp at the end of Boots Season 1. This reflects the true story of Greg Cope White. As recounted in The Pink Marine, one of Cope White's drill instructors told him he needed to stop thinking of himself as ordinary, which helped him reframe his self-image. By the end of boot camp, he got his job as a communications specialist and received a promotion. Only 6 service members out of 72 recruits in his platoon gained the title of Private First Class, and he was one of them. After the events of Boots, he stayed in the service for 6 years, fulfilling his military contract.